there's only one thing I can say about this game. Woohoo! Klonoa's back! Klonoa Phantasy Reverie. It is finally here, and I'm talking about it a few weeks after it released. Well, after finally finishing Dragalia month, and you're probably tired of me waiting to talk about it, so let's finally get to it. Klonoa Phantasy Reverie is an HD remake of the original Klonoa Door to Phantomile and Klonoa 2 Lunatia's Veil. Though Door to Phantomile got a remake just called Klonoa on the Wii, this is the first time Klonoa 2 ever got a re-release outside the PS2 version. There were talks of a potential GameCube and even Xbox version, but sadly those were cancelled for unknown reasons. There was also talk of a Klonoa 2 remake, but that's only if Klonoa for the Wii actually succeeded, which by the way, it didn't. But now, Bandai Namco has finally tried again during its 25th anniversary. And the game released on July 8th, 2022 in the US, well, I think we shouldn't be just thanking Bandai Namco for the creation of this game. Sure, they did publish and develop it, and they even showed off their brand new logo for the company, which I'm gonna generally say is not my favorite. But I also want to thank the company Monkeycraft, who's actually handled remakes in the past, including Katamari Damacy Reroll, Wonder Boy, Asha, and Monster World. I've heard it's good, I've never played any of the Wonder Boy games. They also worked on a handheld version of the River City game, and a video game adaptation of Little Witch Demia, which I've heard is pretty mixed reviews. Now, in all honesty, I've already talked about the story of the entire games previously, so during my free time when the game finally released, I decided to play the entirety of the Phantasy Reverie series, but I'll be only using the first few hours of gameplay I recorded. One, so I can keep this review as spoiler-free as I can, for those who are new to this channel. Also, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and check out some of my other videos. But if you want my entire opinions on these games as a whole, considering these are still the same games, my opinion on said games still hasn't changed. But with that out of the way, yeah, this is definitely Klonoa Door to Phantomile and Klonoa 2 Lunatia's Veil. But there is a lot of interesting things about this game. The games are exactly the same, but there are some additional bells and whistles. You can play the game in 3 different difficulties. Easy mode for first-time players, where the wind bullet actually goes a little farther, and you get additional health points. Normal mode is actually the original HP mount from the original games, and if you beat the main game, you can unlock hard mode, which only gives you 1 hit and 2 lives. So good luck with that if you want to do that. Also early on, they do tell you about a co-op mode, which actually originated in Lunatia's Veil that I didn't even know existed. They also brought it into Door to Phantomile, adding a little more usefulness to characters like Hupao and Popka. But instead of it being like co-op play like Mario 3D World or Mario Galaxy 2, all it really does is just give you an extra jump. So all you really have to do is just plug in an extra controller and use that as an extra button. Even though these games are remakes, they actually do reuse some assets from the original game, more specifically some of the audio within the game. Sort of. Klonoa 2's audio is exactly the same from the original, though it's kind of weird that Door to Phantomile has automatic text movement. Lunatia's Veil, you have to press a button from time to time, though they do reuse assets from Lunatia's Veil. For Door to Phantomile, they actually reuse the assets from the Nintendo Wii version, which actually makes a lot of sense considering some trees in the background don't really look like trees. Also, the audio mixing is a little weird, as it sounds like classic Klonoa from the PlayStation 1 audio was used, and then for some reasons there's a more modern take where it doesn't sound as scratchy. Even though they do upgrade from the Wii base assets, considering it's a lot easier probably to port into an HD version, the English voice acting in the Wii version is not available whatsoever. Everyone still speaks the language that is apparently known as Phantomilan, which I am probably pronouncing incorrectly. Also, this is my personal opinion, but I don't like the term Phantomilan as a language. The reason I don't really like Phantomilan as much is because it isn't really a language that can be properly translated. Different characters have different ways of speaking to one another. As Klonoa talks, he always has a different way of saying wahoo. Popka always sounds like a dog, and Hupao always talks about pee-pee. The only exception when they're actually speaking in Phantomilan is when they're actually saying other people's names. It's kind of similar how Banjo-Kazooie uses its speaking in its gameplay style. Everyone speaks a type of gibberish, but they have a unique way of speaking it depending on the person. Which is also ironic considering Banjo-Kazooie came out a year after Klonoa. Even though there is a place called Lunatia, which is a different dream world entirely, also speaks this supposed same language, even though there's no interconnection with these two worlds whatsoever, other than the fact they are dreamscape. So would it be then called Lunatian? But personally, I actually have a better term to actually call this. I think the official name should be called Dream Language, or the Language of Dreams. Think about it. Considering these are worlds based off dreams, it makes sense that each person has a unique speaking dialogue, and it adds a little more emphasis on the "this is all a dreamscape." Though it does sound like even though they're speaking gibberish, it's also understandable why they speak this language. This is how people would talk in a dream world, apparently. Now that I said it out loud, I'm kind of curious what would happen if you got rid of the speech bubbles within the Klonoa games. Would it make the game more creative in its storytelling? Or would it just be confusing? But either way, I think dream language is the best term to use. Speaking of different changes, if you actually go into the options menu, you can actually change the filter of the gameplay to make Door to Phantom Isle almost look like the original game. Heck, you can even make Lunatia's Veil look like it was originally released on the PlayStation 1. Though I honestly would prefer that 100%ing both games would let you play the original version, similar to what Medieval's remaster did, or at least give us a way to play beach volleyball again. Though one thing I will generally say I'm not a big fan of is the additional perks that they gave you. More specifically, the Collector's Pack. Though if you automatically download the game digitally, you automatically get a free costume, which lets Klonoa dress as a Moo. There are also some additional costumes, including the Prince from Katamari, and a Pac-Man hat, even though he already has Pac-Man on his hat. You also unlock a video game soundtrack and art book, which does sound kinda cool, but I honestly wouldn't recommend it, especially considering they're charging $20 for this type of collection, and if you got it for Steam, you couldn't really keep the audio whatsoever. Probably due to some copyright or some stuff. Plus, if you beat the endgame bonus content, you automatically unlock a sound test. And something I made a mistake on my Lunatia's Veil video, if you collect 150 jewels, which is actually much harder than it sounds, you actually unlock the concept art in the game, which they actually made an HD iteration of, which I will give mad respect for. Also, it makes the Collector's Pack more obsolete than it sounds, and considering that the Door to Phantom Isle is a remake, though they did get rid of some of the original charm that was in the remake. Heck, you can't even dress up as the Wii version of Klonoa, unfortunately. I mean, I am happy that they did choose the original PlayStation 1 design, but at least give me some options, I'm just saying. But one of the things I definitely hated about Phantasy Reverie is the fact that the US was the only country to not get a physical release. Why can't we get nice things? You could do a physical and a digital, but you can't do selective physicals. I would like it if you have a physical and a digital option. But I always hated that whenever it's something for the US, the answer is usually a full-fledged no. I did download this digitally on my Switch, mostly because I didn't want to pay extra shipping for a physical release. But considering this is Klonoa's 25th anniversary, I kinda wish they did a little more with it as well. It's kinda cool that there are physical releases of this game, but I wish they also did some cool limited edition ones too. You know, maybe something with an official art book, some cute little Klonoa stickers, a Popka, or even a Moo plushie, or even a replica ring for you to hold like Klonoa. The best example I can give is this really cool collection from this game called The Cruel King and the Great Hero, which comes with a hardcover adventure book, a digital soundtrack, a cute little collector's box, and a cute little plushie of our main protagonist. Plus, this is a really cool collector's item, and I just wanted a good excuse to talk about it. But even with all those gripes, I still highly recommend you get Klonoa Phantasy Reverie. Yeah, I know, $40 does seem like a lot for just 2 games. That can take usually up to 10 hours to beat. Longer if you're going for 100% completion, including the 150 jewel count. But let's not forget, a single Klonoa game nowadays goes for usually double that price, if not triple. And the fans know it, as Phantasy Reverie was one of the best-selling games on the Switch and Steam, and probably even on PlayStation and Xbox. I don't own those consoles. We may be looking at the revival of a supposedly dead series, similar to Crash Bandicoot, and eventually Spyro, and somehow KO the Kangaroo. Considering how successful this game was on launch, we could even get a collection of the handheld titles releasing in the near future, from Moonlight Museum to all the GBA titles, even getting an English version of Klonoa Heroes. Personally, I would recommend calling it the Pocket Dreams Collection. And of course, a long-awaited continuation of the series and the development of Klonoa 3. I don't know if they'll have the original team behind the Klonoa series working on it, but I am really excited to see if that's possible. The fact that Klonoa was a game series that was supposedly dead, and the last title in the series didn't come out for nearly 15 years, is a miracle in itself. And it gives me hope that many other popular franchises could even get a revival as well. The fact that we're even getting a sequel of games like Fuga Melodies of Steel, I wouldn't be surprised if there was going to be a remake of Tail Concerto and Solo Torobo in the near future. Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series is a dream come true for not just the Klonoa series, but for other obscure platformers. And if you happen to be new on my channel, make sure to check out some of my other videos, as there'll be tons of other videos coming out soon, including a first look at one of my newest projects. But until then, have a nice day, everybody.